Call the meeting to order. Recording and/or broadcast of the meeting is being made at the direction of the board, which may capture images and sounds of those attending the meeting. Roll call. Vladimir. Present. Jessica.
Here.
Brian. Here. Shelley.
Present.
I'm here as well. We have pledge allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Is there any comments or changes to the agenda from board members? Can I get a motion to approve? So, thank you, Vladimir. Can I have a second? Thanks, Shelley. So I have a first from Vladimir, second from Shelley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, passes 5-0. Thank you. We did meet in closed session for this and no action was taken. Ms. McGonigal.
Sure, just a couple of things for an update for you all. Last week, I attended my first CACF meeting, which was very informative, and I have never been to one of those meetings before, so it was great to get to meet the team and with Eric, set some direction for their work, which is fantastic. I also Thursday night participated in the LAEF Phone-a-thon, one of my favorite events of the year. And this year was exciting because it was also a text-a-thon, which for somebody who really dislikes being on the phone, the text-a-thon really worked for me. It was great. But we appreciate our LAF partners. As you know, I attended the STEAM Symposium this last weekend with a couple of our folks. Grace Choi, one of our instructional support teachers, and Greg Drummond. And this morning, Carrie, by 7:30, we were debriefing around all the good things that we had seen and talked about, and really trying to look at what's the next iteration of STEM and LASD, and how do we, as we know, we're expanding our TK, how do we really prioritize our expansion and rethinking in those primary TK3 grades to start with as we move along. So that was exciting. And then I wanted to give you, Eric and I met with the 231 grant housing team, Supervisor Simidian's super team. And it was really wonderful. I had attended maybe 1 or 2 meetings with Jeff in the background as we were transitioning in the spring, and knew that there were some big questions that we were still waiting to get some clarification around. So wanted to let you know that I think they've done a better job of addressing the income levels for folks who qualify for our housing. Big picture, where the proposal is that we invest $600,000 to have access to 12 units, a mix of units, studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms. So they've done a better job of addressing those income levels. It became more clear we're not looking at below market rate housing. It's not low income housing. This project's intended as middle income housing, which really hits our staff. Both our classified and our certificated staff. So to see that they're making headway there is fantastic. One of the other pieces, I know that was a question in the past, is around term limits once a person gets into one of the units. I don't know that it's in our best interest to have somebody then living there for 25 years. So the most recent proposal is around that every district can set their own term limits and their ability to get onto the wait list. And that's, I think, really good news for our ability to attract and retain staff. And ultimately, I want to hear what other questions you might have. They are looking for a December approval, January at the latest. They would love to come and do a real formal presentation in December for the board and to kind of give you all of the details and big pictures. I think we've addressed the big concerns that were hanging out there. wanted to let you know.
Thank you. Next item, consent calendar. Since the items are routine and approved by one motion, I have a motion to approve consent items. So, Vladimir, do you have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Shelley. Moved by Vladimir, second by Shelley. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, it passes 5-0. Employees request to address the board.
Hi, everyone. I'm back. So I was thinking about what to talk about today, and I've been kind of sharing what it's like for the teachers as they open up the year. And we talked about establishing routines and all of those types of things. But what I was thinking about today is what happens when a student is having some trouble acclimating to those routines. And we have definitely seen that after COVID. Kids were out of school for a long time. Some of our really little kids didn't get to go to preschool. And then they're coming into the classroom sometimes for the first time. And one of the things that I want you to think about is the energy that it requires from a teacher to manage these types of behaviors. Because obviously the ultimate goal is to make every child feel welcome, successful in school. We know when kids are in that relaxed state, they learn better. There's lots of data to back that up. And so it's energy worth spending, but it is energy that our teachers put out. And one of the things that I get asked for sometimes is how do I get more support to help with some of those challenging students? And we have definitely supports in our district around that with our behaviorists, but at times they're spread pretty thin. They have caseloads of their own. And so to come in and help a teacher, sometimes that's not possible. So one of the things I want to kind of propose is maybe making our staff meetings places where we can share some behavior management techniques with teachers. Because I think behavior management is definitely a skill, but good behavior management is an art. And that comes from knowledge and experience and time. And sometimes the genius is in the room. And you have teachers who are often new coming onto our staffs who maybe don't have that experience to be able to even know where to start and what to do. And they're also afraid of doing the wrong thing. And so I just want to kind of put that out there that maybe we start to think about how do we offer our staff these kind of small trainings that are ways for them to just have some more tools in their toolbox to deal with this when it arises, because we know it's coming. And if we know, we want to make sure that we're prepared so that we can keep, our classes as balanced and nurturing as possible. So just a thought.
To provide public comment on agenda items, speaker cards can be submitted to the superintendent. Speaker cards will not be accepted once public comment begins. Your name will be announced when it's your turn to speak. This time is reserved for members of the public and employees to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. The board is not permitted to discuss or take action on non-agendized items except to instruct the superintendent to review the matter further, report back to the board at a subsequent meeting, or place the matter on a future agenda. The board may make a brief comment or ask clarifying questions. I do have one person who's requested to speak on non-agendized item. Heidi, is it Melander? Melander. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Heidi Melander. I am the parent of an 8th grader, and we went through Springer K through 6 and successfully made it through 7th, and we are an 8th. And it's been a great time. So I just want to say thank you to LASD. We've had a good run of years. What brings me here tonight is that I've been involved in the recycling and composting efforts at Springer over the years. I've seen it. Another volunteer parent, from my understanding, sort of put things together before I even got there, which made it easier for me to pick up and sort of re-nurture again over the years. It picked up without me after the pandemic. So I just wanted to say thank you to Mrs. Khaled and to Raul, who did it without my prompting. I don't know. It felt like it always needed my prompting in previous years. And I was just so impressed to walk through campus one day and see that composting was happening, because I don't think composting is happening in every school. And that's kind of what I'm here to say, is it's not happening at Block. But thank you to Mr. Land. We are, and to Marlene, I've been in contact with them both. I think we're getting there. I think we finally have a plan. I've talked to a couple of, there's the environmental club and the Block Gives Back club, and the kids, I am so inspired by the energy the kids have to make it happen. And that's what I realized I was really missing is, well, I mean, that's what I got to previously, but it's like this year somehow things are clicking. And we have the new lunch program, which creates extra challenges, but I just want to say, I'm hopeful that we're going to get a program going. We all know how to recycle paper and bottles and cans now. We've all been, for the most part, many of us have been already composting food scraps and food soil paper, like napkins and paper trays and that kind of thing at home. And so it's time for it to be at school. So I'm looking forward to that happening this year. And thank you for any support that we can get on those fronts. Thanks.
Thank you. Seeing no other community comments?
I feel like she should get an award for being like the first person.
I know.
Yeah. Today's meeting. It was a great subject matter. Too, but, like, you're literally the first community
That's where we
member
are,
to
yeah.
speak to us. You did great. It was great. But I only have 1 year left. So. Sorry, I'm on.
I have a comment.
You have a comment? Yeah.
Paul also used to have I guess other places also have a composting day where Palo Alto residents can come and take stuff. It's extremely popular. And so I suspect that if we did something like that at the schools, it would help.
Yeah, and I think that's actually the finished product.
Yes, yes,
right?
yeah.
That's not just, so they're all plenty of aspects.
Some of us sort of scheme on ways of getting in there. But we don't not Palo Alto residents.
Oh, we can work on that.
I wonder who that is.
Okay, I'm going to move on to action on discussion items. Transitional kindergarten update.
All right, good evening. I'm super excited to be here this evening. I've been here in many capacities in the past, but this is my official time as coordinator of curriculum and instruction. So I'm very excited. Thank you. One of the areas that I've really been focused on this year is transitional kindergarten. So I came today to give you a little update about how that process has kind of gotten started this year and what that looks like for the next couple of years. So I'm going to talk to you about 4 big things. I like to call transitional kindergarten TK for short. You know, we love little abbreviations. So TK in California, TK here in LASD. I'm going to give you a little glimpse into the TK experience and then talk very briefly about TK and ELOP, which is our expanded learning opportunities that we're also in the process of getting going, which is one of my other big categories that I work with. So I'm sure I'll be back to present on that at some point. So in case you didn't know, in California, they have passed Assembly Bill 130, and this really allows it's going to ultimately allow all 4-year-olds to attend elementary school. So we are in that process like we've been in the past, where we're slowly pushing back the birth dates little by little, so that in a couple of years, students who turn 4 by September 1st will be able to attend a kindergarten or transitional kindergarten program. And it's really, we think about developmentally what those kids need and what their day needs to look like. So it really is different than a traditional kindergarten class. So like I said, the expansion is going to occur over a 4-year period. Beginning this year, we pushed the birthday back already a couple months for this year. And so we're really thinking about how we can serve these students. And as they get younger and younger, really making sure we're meeting their needs. TK is the first year really of a 2-year kindergarten experience. Throughout many years, even I can remember when I was a child, transitional kindergarten has been around, right? It's been in so many different forms and here for a little bit, gone again, back and so forth. But this is really a great opportunity to provide an education and welcome families into our district 1 year ahead of what we're already doing. This is from TK California, a great resource that I'm probably on at least a couple times a week. But this is a great roadmap that kind of shows us where last year we were kind of getting ready. And here we are right now, 22, 23, and it's ready, set, go. Implementation has begun. We pushed the birthdays back a couple months for this year. And then one other thing that we're really taking into account is this 12-to-1 student to teacher ratio. So we're also not only dependent on our transitional kindergarten teachers, but our aides as well. So you can see within the next few years, the birthday gets pushed back about 2 months at a time. So that by 25, 26, all students who turn 4 by September 1st can enroll in TK. And this very much mirrors the kindergarten. So kindergarten is 5 by September 1st. So we're ultimately getting aligned with that. Some things to consider when thinking about all this. Funding is obviously something we've received a small amount of funding for planning and implementation. Facilities. Currently, we have enough facilities at our sites to provide for our TK needs, but we need to be thinking about classrooms and TK's favorite topic, bathrooms. As we know, it makes a lot of sense for our youngest kids on campus to be very close to the bathroom. So currently all of our TK classes are in classrooms with bathrooms. And it did mean displacing some of the kinder rooms, but as a kindergarten teacher who taught in a room with a bathroom and without, I preferred without. The smell is much calmer. We also need to think about outside areas, right? Play structures, tables. I don't know if you've ever noticed the teeny tiny little preschool tables out here outside the preschool. Like, and then, but we have smaller bodies on campus. So really thinking about that. Staffing. Currently, I'm going to introduce you to our TK team, but we have 4 TK teachers currently this year, but we'll be expanding. Enrollment's going to keep increasing. And so we'll need to think about our staffing for TK. And one thing that's a little bit unique about TK teachers is that the state is requiring them to have an early childhood education, some credentials to that. We're currently working through how we can often supply some training together that will also qualify for those credits as well. So really thinking about making sure they have an understanding of that specific age group. And then, like I said, the TK aid. We really need the TK aid there the whole time the students are there. So we keep that ratio 12-to-1. Communication with my funky N over there. It's not like that on mine. One thing that we're really thinking about is how for new family night, we're doing it a little bit earlier this year too, which is going to be great, but thinking about how we can really talk up and talk about the TK program, hopefully at all of our sites. And then I've seen many of you at the farmers market booth as well. When we have that, we're often like talking about TK during that time as well. Enrollment, we're going to have to think about projected enrollment here. It's kind of hard to predict. We actually went from 2 TK classes last year to 4 this year with just that addition of 2 months of kiddos. It really depends year to year. We've gone from anywhere from 2 TKs to 3 to 4 since about 2015 when we initially started TK. And then something I'm super excited about is the P3 alignment. That's really thinking about our early education, TK to 3rd grade. How can we really make sure there's that vertical alignment and we're really preparing students with all those core foundational skills that they need for a strong start in our district and in school in general. So TK and LASD. This year we have 81 TKers across our district. Here's a breakdown from site to site. On this column here, this is where their home school currently is. And then this second column shows the current class that they're at. Like I said, we have 4 sites this year with TK. So we do it based on enrollment a little bit too. We also take into facilities into account. And then this year also, we had to take ELA programming, like when we did our partnerships with our after-school providers. So this is where we landed this year. We have had TK at Springer in the past. That one was moved to Oak for this year. So here is our amazing TK team. At Almond, we have Lisa Schubert, and she has been, this is her 7th year teaching TK. Ellen San Armand, this is her 3rd year teaching TK at Loyola. Allison White is newer to our TK team, but this is her 2nd year. She started at Springer last year and has moved over to Oak. And then Linda Marie Hayes, this is her 9th year teaching TK, and she's been at Santa Rita. And again, I've mentioned, shouted out their amazing aides that really are like a co-teacher almost in their classrooms as well. So last spring, Sandra and I were working on our PK, TK. You'll hear people call it UPK, which is Universal Preschool. I was like, we're sticking to TK here. We kind of just like how that rolls, and really TK falls under UPK. That's kind of like the big umbrella because it includes state preschools, Head Start, and all of that. But Sandra and I kind of worked together on this vision, and then I brought it to the TK team this summer. We kind of had a kickoff as a team towards the end of the summer, and this was the vision that we really that we strive for. So to lay a strong foundation for social emotional well-being and academic success. So really thinking about how important those social emotional skills are in kindergarten, along with getting them ready for those academics. And this is something that as the TK team gets together, we look at, we tweak, we really think about how can we live this vision? And one way that we're living that vision is that we came up with an inquiry question together that as a team, we're kind of using to reflect upon for this year, since we're kind of in the first year of this, implementing and expansion. How can we really think about what is a successful TK program? So what does teaching and learning in TK look like, sound like, and feel like? And throughout this year, we'll all be populating our little slide deck with evidence from a letter about Color Week to, a Kamochi that they're learning about. I'll tell you all about Kamochis in a minute. But little images and really thinking about how does that piece of evidence show what TK looks like in LASD. And then we're currently working on this supporting inquiry question, really thinking about early literacy. So those pre-reading skills. And we just spent the September Professional Development Day diving into this question, really thinking about using our data that we have been collecting along with some new curricular resources and how we can really target that pre-reading and literacy instruction for our TKers. And we'll continue that in January because we're working on it. All right, ready to dive into the TK experience here? So in my new role, I spent a lot of time researching some really developmentally and age-appropriate resources that could add to our teachers' expertise. Our TK teachers really do know this age group really well, and they have a lot of strategies that they're really using and that align nicely to our kindergarten and our first and so on. So one of the new programs that they're trying out this year is Sunday, Let's Play Learn. You might recognize that name, Sunday. That's a tier 3 intervention that we use for our K and above, really. But this is a early literacy, so pre-reading resource that really is multi-sensory because it's an Orton Gillingham base, and it just really allows students to spend time working on, for example, rapid automatic naming. So there's these little strips with different shapes or colors or letters or numbers, and they're working on reading that. So they might read their colors, like this poster down here, green, orange, purple, red, and then they'll work on building that and saying that fluently. So those pre-reading skills that really get them ready. What's nice too is it goes beyond literacy, like I just mentioned, shapes, colors, so forth. And then the other new thing that we have received is the Fountains and Pinnell Interactive Read Alouds. Interactive Read Alouds are part of our K through 8, really the primary K-2 curriculum with the Teachers College of having, a story read aloud, allowing time for pause and conversation with the group, with partners and so forth. So again, really thinking about that alignment with our P3, thinking about how we can prepare kinders to have conversations about books that they are read. And then Joyful Writing by Fountains and Pinnell also is a great preview for our TKers because it follows the same structure for mini lessons that our curriculum does, kinder through 8, with that short mini lesson, even shorter in TK, sometimes 5 minutes, really quick, and allowing kids to experiment with writing. And that really starts off with drawing. So there's a whole big part of it of just about drawing. Handwriting Without Tears is a curriculum that we use really kindergarten and then sometimes first and second, especially in small groups if that's still needed. But we have TK curriculum that we use for that. Students get to work on writing numbers, writing letters and so forth, shapes, and different things. And then nursery rhymes and fairy tales, we still got to keep it nice and, fun for them. And so not only does our the interactive read aloud have some of those, but our teachers have really created some great thematic units where it's really goes to get across content areas. So here you can see, this is actually from one of our current TK classes where they wrote out, Mary had a little lamb and substituted the students' names into it. And then they got to do some art with it. I also see them acting out these nursery rhymes all the time and stuff like that. So one of the new pieces that we've also added to TK is the TK assessment. We know that in kinder through 3rd, we're currently using DIBELS, and then we use our Fountains and Pinnell benchmark assessment from kinder through 8th grade, but we wanted something for TK that was really appropriate. So the Preschool Early Literacy Indicators, or PELI, as we like to call it, is a storybook informed instruction. So it's actually a story and students are engaged with the story. They even got creative enough to it's a spiral and you open it and teacher sits on one side and that's her directions or his directions and then students on the other side. So it's really great. And they do letter knowledge, vocabulary and oral language, comprehension and phonemic awareness. So those big 4 areas too also correlate a lot to our DIBELS assessments that we're starting in kinder. And it's really gonna allow, we're doing it 3 times a year for benchmarks. Imagine what our data our kinder teachers are gonna get for these incoming kinders next year. So not only are we using it this year to help inform our instruction, but we're gonna be able to give these kinder teachers next year so much information on these TKers. So a little bit about math and science. We're aligned with our district with our adopted curriculum of using SFUSD math. For this year, we decided to use a little hybrid of the PK and the TK. They actually have 2 different curriculums. I looked at them side by side this summer. We have a plan to use mostly the PK. It's more built out, it's more developmentally appropriate, and then a little bit of the TK. The TK really just takes the PK and the kinder and kind of puts it together. It's very interesting, but we're trying out the really focused PK with a little TK this year. And then Twig Science, we're so excited about when we adopted this curriculum. They have a TK curriculum that goes with it. And Allison White and I actually piloted it last year in the spring to see, is it really developmentally appropriate for our littles? And it really is. They had so much fun, songs, stories, super interactive. And so it's great that these students will be exposed to curriculum that they'll be with through 5th grade. And then just a little bit more, just a few little things that TKers also get to experience. They have PE 3 or 2 times a week for 30 minutes. We're trying out some computer science with them this year. So kinders get about 10 lessons of computer science during the normal school year. We're trying out 5 this year with the idea of reflecting and then building that program out. Alex Schroeder, one of our CS teachers, is working hard on developing those lessons. A lot of them unplugged, using their bodies to code, using different things. So we're excited. TK kids get to go to the STEM and participate in STEM activities, library, like all the other students, you know, at their site. And then they also participate in art docents, living classroom, and then starting arts. So they get exposure to all those things. And I'm going to have a meeting with starting arts and living classroom, I'm sorry, art docents and living classroom here from our district later this year to think about how can we expand that and have that alignment to the new TWIG curriculum as well. So lots happening and exposure for them and constant reflection as well. One of the most important things, and I told you I'd tell you about this, are kamochis, which I just learned means feeling in Japanese. You didn't know I was going to be teaching you Japanese tonight. But kamochis are the social and emotional learning experience that our TKers get to go through. And a lot of our TK teachers have been using this for many years. It's very, very cute. The students are introduced to a round of characters. This is Lovey-Dove right here. And these characters have full personalities. Let me tell you a little bit about Lovey-Dove really quick. Lovey-Dove has a favorite color of yellow and loves carrots and raisins and really loves to sing. Lives in a Japanese tree. And some of her personalities is that she sends friendly signals and acts and speaks in a kind way. So there's all these different characters. Octopus is my favorite one right now that they just learned, and it's about personal space. And I heard a story that one of the TKers was on the playground. Someone must have gotten in her personal space, and she very nicely reminded them of her bubble. So they learn about these characters that they can relate to, and then they really learn all about feelings. This is the feeling chart that you can see in any TK classroom. You see a TKer here in morning meeting, sharing his feeling with the class, pointing to the one that they relate to. But it's a research-based curriculum, and it really teaches emotional vocabulary and simple strategies for students to use when challenging situations come up. So we're really excited about this, and I love hearing about the names are just fun. If you'd like to know about any other, you just let me know. I have a cheat sheet. And lastly, I wanted to talk a little bit about ELA, or the Expanded Learning Opportunities Program. So for this year, we've really focused on partnering with our on-site providers to provide this after school and before school care for our TKers across the district. So currently at the YMCA at Oak, we have 6 TKers who attend after school. At the YMCA at Almond, we have 2 that attend before school and 6 that attend after school. At Santa Rita Champions, we have 6 that attend after school. And at Loyola's Children's House, we have 2 that attend before school and 7 that attend after school. So pretty good numbers for our TKers there. And then currently TKers who qualify for, through the ELA, we have 4 TKers across the district that we're currently paying for there and servicing them through that ELA. But we're excited to, like I said, this is expanding as well. The TKers seem to really be enjoying it. Our partners have been great this year, being flexible and getting lots of emails from me all the time. But like I said, I'd be happy to come back and talk about ELA later down the road. But I had to end with this picture because this is the cutest tea. This is actually from Loyola. And one of the girls had tripped on her way to the table, and this was a helping friend. So but thank you. And I will take any questions if you have them.
I've seen no public make comments. Any board member have questions or comments?
I always expect-
That's why I took that one first.
So one of the things that has come up recently is a discussion of holding back boys by 1 year, simply so that their emotional status is aligned with girls as they move along. And I was wondering if you had given any thought to that.
I have
It's okay to say
yeah,
yes.
no, I have not, but if you have something you can send my way, that article, I would love to read that article.
Second thing is playtime. I love to play. And I'm sure kids love to play as well. How much playtime is built into the?
Yeah. I'm gonna take us back to some of our slides here. So when I think about some of these experiences that they're having, play is really built out through and occurring in all different levels throughout our day. I believe, Sandra, did you introduce the continuum of play
Yeah, I
before?
probably don't remember, but we talked about everything from totally free play
Mhm.
to teacher
Teacher-led.
structure, yeah.
Teacher-led,
play,
yeah.
And that there's a continuum along the way.
So when I think about Sunday in particular there,
Mhm.
it ranges from play as in a song, a new alphabet song that gets the LMNOP little hiccup out of students' mind and adding movement to that and fun. And so there's a little bit of play right there, right? And then there's lots of memory games. I remember one lesson I did with some TKers there was the mystery bag of letters. And they had to close their eyes and feel the letter without telling us the name of it. So again, a little bit of play there, right? One thing that is occurring throughout their day are structured and kind of more unstructured play times. A more structured playtime would be something like a writing center or an art center, where it's this cart that rolls up with different pens, different papers, different things. And kids can just go to town at making things. I've seen TKers already this year make books where they staple a whole bunch of papers together. And that's kind of their inventive kind of more structured play, right? I'm providing you with this. Let's see what you do with it. And then we like to end each day in TK or towards the end of the day, especially not with full day, engaging in some like kind of more unstructured play in the sense of there's different games, there's blocks, there's Legos, there's puzzles, and watching kids not only play with them, but how they take two and put them together. So I saw kids building a garage the other day. So they had all their blocks and then they got the Matchbox cars and they were putting so things like that too, where it's not as traditional as here's this, play with it, here's that. But here are the things that we've learned how to play with, and students have that option to combine them and use their imagination as they see. So we really are thinking about play throughout the day.
I was at Covington the other day at recess time, and the kids were running around crazy and they're having lots of fun. So
Yeah.
I think
We still do recess too in TK. We do recess and lunch, of course, and yeah, they're often on those kindergarten playgrounds, sometimes even interacting with the kinder groups as well. Sometimes they do a little bit on their own, so they have their same size and aged peers, and then we'll do a little bit of crossover with the kinder and TK teams.
I had a question about Pelly.
Mhm.
And had to do with culturally appropriate
Texts.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can, we have a lot of different cultures here
Mhm.
in Los Altos. And I was wondering how much is actually representative
Yeah.
in what we do and teach.
I think what they really made an attempt to do is to have families or characters that represent a variety of family types and backgrounds. One thing that I will say that's interesting that we're learning is just like some of the vocabulary. One of the vocabulary words was cauliflower. And one of this book, like, what's this picture of? And that was a tricky word for a lot of students. And so it's also creative to see what they come up with and what they call things. And in fact, we even make notes, like if they identify something in their native language, in their L1, we'll make sure to make notes of that, because that's showing us and that's teaching us something, right? That they're able to recognize that image in their home language.
One more question.
You know, I used to.
Are we tracking longitudinal data to see we have this TK, there's K, and so on and so forth? Can we correlate what the experience of the TK is to what's happening later on in school?
So we're really thinking about how we could really think about those TKers that are coming in and how we can have data, throughout. The Pelly doesn't perfectly align with the Devils data, but actually Pelly is the old Dibbles.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of crossover there. But we're also thinking, we've made some changes to our report card to make it mirror the kinder report card a little bit more. So there's little things in the works for that. And that is a vision really that I have, is thinking about that long term, or what kind of projects can we have kids engage with and start with in TK and maybe work on throughout.
Yeah. I hear there's something to talk.
Yeah, but the data itself, sometimes it can feel like apples and oranges. I did a ton of research, thought about, could I even like tweak the Dibbles benchmarks a little bit, so that is something that we could compare. So we're trying this one out this year. It might not be the go forever answer, but that's something we want to consider. We will also, any TKer who is a reader at the end of transitional kindergarten will get an F&P level. So that will, if they are a reader, that will jump in to their kinder as well.
Thank you for answering my questions, and I think this is great. And I think that, given what you said, I think it'll be successful. So
Thank you.
looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
That is wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
We're going to move on to our next topic, which is diversity, equity, inclusion update. Dr. Foster.
I'm really excited to bring an update to the board on our work around diversity, equity, inclusion, making our staff and students feel safe and welcome, included. And I wanted to set that context in the portrait of a learner. The 6 C's: character, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, citizenship. We want to ground our work with our students around these competencies and skills. We want them to be academically successful, but we also want them to have these skills and competencies that will help them throughout their life. And I was so pleased to see that in the TK presentation as well. In the spring and March, you had an update come to you with some recommendations from our equity task force and from our district staff working on this topic. I'll talk a little bit about those and give you an update on some fall professional learning. We just had a PD day on Friday, September 23rd. Talk with you a little bit about the stakeholder survey, as well as some next steps. So back in spring, you all adopted anti-bias framework, and you had some recommendations around getting teachers and staff trained, as well as conducting a survey, not just of staff, but also of our community about their experiences. And then we were doing some work already around social studies and inquiry, and providing some lesson resources for our teachers. The social justice standards was the framework that you adopted. It does have 4 domains. I'm just going to give you some examples of maybe what some anchor standards might be in each of those domains. The identity talks about students developing positive social identities based on their membership in multiple groups in society. The diversity domain talks about students expressing comfort with people who are both similar and different from them and engage respectfully with all people. The justice domain hits standards such as analyzing the harmful impact of bias and injustices in our both in our world historically and today. And then the action domain, that's the fun one. What are we doing about these things? So some examples might be students speaking up with courage and respect when they or someone else has been hurt or wronged by bias. And so I just love this quote from Zaretta Hammond from her book, Culturally Responsive Teaching in the Brain. She says, in culturally responsive teaching, relationships are as important as the curriculum. Geneva Gay, a pioneer from culturally responsive pedagogy, says positive relationships exemplified as caring are one of the major pillars of culturally responsive teaching. So it really is about showing care and concern and teaching those critical thinking skills. And it's not about teaching students what to think. It's about teaching them how to think. And so Friday, September 23rd, we had 240 or all of our certificated staff engaged in professional learning. They participated in a World of Different session that was part of their professional development day. The other part of their day, they were engaged in instructional strategies and professional development around inquiry models. But in this session, we're lucky enough to have facilitators from the Anti-Defamation League, and we were able to explore as staff the concepts of community, identity, examining and challenging bias, and then actions that we can do to make our campuses feel more safe, welcoming, more inclusive. And I just have to say, I sat through the session, so did Sandra and many of our team. It was really well received by all staff, and I'm going to share with you just some short little quotes that we got from some feedback at the end of the sessions. We did have 6 presenters come in, so there were 6 different sessions and broken up into groups about 30 or 40. This allowed the presenters to get us into small groups and engage with some activities. Just to give you an example of one of the activities, what's the story of your name? And so we would talk about that. What is the story of your name? If your first name, your middle name, your family name, your last name, and just really engaging in that type of discussion. And it went deep pretty fast, but talking about identity. And then we did some what they called identity molecules exercises. What makes up your identity as an educator? And then how might we replicate this with kids in the classroom? So we had teachers say, I feel it was necessary to help me be the best educator I can be. I think this is a good start. Reflecting is the start. It was helpful for creating safety in our school community. It gave a good first dip into this work, but there is further and deeper to go. I feel happy and hopeful about our district intentionally working on this together. And I feel educated, inspired, and comfortable to move this into the classroom. These are just some examples of the feedback that we've received so far. And this was just a 2.5 hour session. It was part of their day, combined with another session. And some additional work that started last year was around social studies inquiries. And we've had Sarah Gerlinger, who's our lead instructional support teacher, really behind this work. And so what last year they were really focusing on resource creation and curation. They created a hub where social studies teachers could access units and information. They also convened a cohort from K-6 of teachers and really talking with them about in social studies, how might we get our students to engage as social scientists? How do they become geographers, anthropologists, political analyzers? How do they engage with primary source material? I was just in a classroom at Egan last week, and Mrs. Riley was teaching an inquiry on the Declaration of Independence. And the inquiry question was pretty simple. It's what are the big ideas of the Declaration of Independence, and how has that evolved today? What are some challenges? What are some successes? And her students were engaged in small groups, really chewing on the inquiry section, going through the document itself, and pulling out words about all men, for example. How has that evolved today? So in this school year, we also have a cohort of teachers who are engaged in professional learning. They participated in PD on the PD day. There's about 20 of them. Sarah led that, and going a little bit deeper with this work. And really, we talked about it's a shift from studying to doing social studies. We want them to gain their knowledge and deepen their understanding both of the past, but also the impact on the world today and action they might take in the world today. It's really exciting work as a social studies teacher. It really gets me excited. Another area that started last spring was considering a survey of our stakeholders. So we've been looking through survey modules prepared through Hanover Research, and we've sent one out to staff. And this is one example of a question that we would ask. It says, please say how much you agree or disagree with the following statements about students' school environment. Students at district schools are proud of their school, like school, feel like they're part of the school community, feel welcome at school. This gives you some examples. We're looking at how welcome do our students feel, how safe do they feel, how included do they feel, and we're also concerned about that for staff as well. So next steps are to continue the work that was started last year, to continue to look at our framework and our equity task force recommendations. To continue the learning that we engaged in this fall with our World of Difference sessions and our social studies inquiry, as well as January PD Day focus on the same topics. And we'd like to reconvene our equity task force to consider survey results. And then start thinking about, well, what is next steps? We know from a professional learning standpoint that the culturally responsive teaching pedagogy and really thinking about how are we engaging students in the classroom is a good next step for us. I want to thank you for your attention. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Seeing no questions from the community. Any comments, questions for Terry? Look this way first.
No, I don't have any. I think this is really exciting work and I can't wait to hear more updates and see how it's and how it's being received as well.
Nothing to add.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry.
Next up is approval of contract for Davis Demographics. Eric.
Yes, Laptop and Global Age Demographic Research has retired. And it's been several years since we've really had a full demographic study. At the previous meeting, staff was asked to research and look into hiring a new demographer, which we've done so. We reached out to a couple other school districts to find out who they're using. Davis Demographics came highly recommended. We did an interview with them over the phone via Zoom. And I think they're able to really meet our needs of what we're looking for. And so tonight we're asking to approve a 3-year contract with Davis Demographics. And we feel a 3-year study will give us a lot of good data as our enrollment has dropped. And we feel like the next 3 years will give some good data to look at future projections. And tonight we're going to be asking the board to approve a contract with Davis Demographics.
Any questions, comments on the contract proposal? Seeing that, can I get a motion to approve? So, thank you, Vladimir. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Shelley. Moved by Vladimir, second by Shelley. And a motion, vote on Davis Demographics contract. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Classroom lighting project. Eric.
So this next item, last spring, early summer, staff was given direction to move forward with a classroom lighting project. It was deemed to be somewhat of an emergency. The classroom lighting that was failing in many classrooms at Allman, Block, and Springer. I went over there this summer and it was really hard to see in some of these rooms and my eyes are not very good, so it made it even worse. Unfortunately, the project wasn't able to be completed during the summertime due to not being able to go out to bid in time enough. So in order to follow the public contract code, we advertised the project. We did a pre-job walk. 3 bidders attended the pre-bid walk, which was great. And we had 3 reasonable proposals. One was a little out of line, which we weren't sure what they were bidding on, and I never followed up with them. The 3 companies that bid were Best Electrical, General Lighting Services, and Piper Electric, all outstanding union electrical contractors. I have experience working with all 3 of the firms. All those firms have done work for the district in the past. And Best was the apparent low bidder. So tonight we're asking you to award a contract for the lighting replacement project to Best Electrical for $854,311. We will fund this project with our lease revenue fund. And once the project gets approved by the board, we'll give them a notice of award. Then they can order the light fixtures, and we're hoping to have the light finished by the end of the calendar year, if possible. Which there is a week in January. If they can do some of the work in that week of January before school resumes, I think January 9th, that would be great. So that's our plan and timing to get it in the timeline.
Any questions for Eric on the proposal? You got a motion to approve the contract. So moved. Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion to approve the contract with Best Electrical. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, passes 5-0. consideration adoption of findings and approval for joint use agreement with Stepping Stones Preschool.
So, and I want to acknowledge the board's patience with this item because this was we had to do 2 amendments. A lot of it was due to the timing of actually have the agreement assigned by the Stepping Stones Preschool. We weren't able to get a signed agreement to the board ahead of time, which I don't like doing. So we had to do an amendment and then had to do a second amendment. But we were able to come to an agreement with Stepping Stones Preschool. And this is for about a 4-year, 8-month agreement. Will expire in 27. And in the old days, school districts were allowed to enter these long 10, 15, 20-year agreements. And some of the head code changed. And then working with DWK, it really becomes what they call it, like joint use agreements. And where they break them up into smaller 5-year agreements, and then you have the option to extend out. This does have that option. One of the caveats in the agreement, there's an opt-out clause, there's an extra portable in the back. And then when Stepping Stones was had before COVID, they had a lot of kids coming, so they actually leased out that extra portable. And then during COVID, their numbers shrank, so they're not sure if they're going to keep that portable or not. They will know. And we gave them that option, but they have to let us know by the end of December. So that's part of the agreement is an opt-out clause. And then if they decide to opt out and not lease that portable, then that will give us a couple months to get it cleaned up, ready to go. We would do an RFP process to lease out that portable. So tonight we're asking the board to approve the joint use agreement with Stepping Stones, and that will not interfere any educational programs or disrupt the community for this agreement. So tonight this is an approval action item.
Great. Thank you. Any questions, comments? Seeing none, can I get an approval to the findings and joint use agreement for Stepping Stones Preschool?
So
Thank you, Vladimir. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Shelley. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, it passes 5-0. Thank you. That was our last action. Comments from the administration board? Gary, anyone?
I mentioned the World of Difference training that we did on Friday, September 23rd. I just wanted to acknowledge the other trainings that we held that partnered with those sessions and the folks that led them. We have an amazing team of instructional support teachers, and as you know, in the curriculum instruction office, Allison Gentile led context for learning and math for K-6 teachers. Morgan Chadwick led balancing phonics instruction, K1. Karen Wilson, depth and complexity. I mentioned Sarah Gerlinger with inquiry-based social studies. Jill Croft led a session on reading intervention for grades 3 through 6. Refining math instruction for all students, also by Allison. Writing instruction by our very own Greg Drummond, our director of CNI. Making meaning in the maker space with Zach Hansel. Integrating content areas with Grace Joy. Just a couple more junior high sessions. We had leveling up student talk, so academic conversation in the classroom with Sarah, Riley, and Patty. We had feedback and informal assessment with Diane Quintana. And then I led engagement protocols, and then Alex led responsive advisory. We're really proud of this work this year, and just want to thank all those folks that helped them here this evening.
Thank you. Eric, anything else?
I was happy to be carried drink person, so I brought the soft drinks. I brought water. But it was neat to see all the teachers engaged, and I probably had in a couple of sessions, so it was really neat to see some of the work being done. So thank you for including that. So thank you.
Nothing else? Okay. Shelley, anything?
Oh, I participated in the interest-based bargaining training with Jessica. That was really great. Enjoyed that. I went to Supervisor Joe Samedian's press conference launching MedAssist, and I hope that a lot of our families, our teachers, and our staff will take advantage of this. Essentially, they give you medicine for asthma inhalers, diabetes medicine, EpiPens, and the income for household is pretty high.
Yeah, it's surprisingly.
Yeah. So they're trying to target that missing middle income. And I think it's really fabulous. And the pharmacy where you can get it is across the street from our 10th site on California. So it's very close. What else? I went to the CSA Hometown Heroes lunch that was at the Los Altos History Museum. They're, wonderful nonprofit. Greentown, went to their event, and I visited Block, and it was wonderful. I really enjoyed the tour and talking to Principal Land. So.
I was also on the block tour, which was very nice. I actually have a request. There's the LAMV PTA council meeting on Wednesday, which is Yom Kippur, so I cannot attend. I was wondering if anybody wanted to volunteer to take my place. 5 o'clock on Wednesday, but over Zoom.
I could, available.
Thank you. I also met with Mark Berman to talk a little bit about how our year is going, gave him an update on meal costs and special ed costs. Try to put those in his ear. I'm meeting also over Zoom with Josh Becker tomorrow to deliver the same message. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to talk to him about. And then I listened to the Spur webcast about AB 2295, which is a bill the governor signed last week, basically allowing housing much more widely on school property. So sort of similar to the ADU legislation, the way the ADU legislation in the past kind of took zoning out of the equation, this takes zoning out of the equation for housing on school sites. So something I think to investigate as we think about our master plan. That's it.
Jessica?
Did the IBB training. I did the LASD community gives back distribution at Tomatillo Park. Again, very successful distribution of food and actually getting people signed up for resources for CSA. Really just excited about that partnership continuing with them. Went to the Los Altos Town Choir 75th anniversary event and attended the Los Altos Women's Caucus Forum where I got to see Vice Chancellor Sergey, along with many other women candidates. But she was amazing, but I'm biased. And that's it.
So I also attended the Greentown South Dinner and auction, and Josh Becker spoke about his efforts to mitigate climate change. And Don Bray of I think it was Don Bray of the Silicon Valley Clean Energy nonprofit spoke about how we as individuals, or as households, can reduce our energy use. And I attended the Los Altos Town Choir 75th anniversary, and the rich and famous got to hobnob with me. And another Santa Clara County School Boards Association.
Oh, yeah. Kind of busy too.
Gary, you waiting?
Laura Wiley, she also
And the other thing I just want you all to be aware of, Jack is holding a special meeting with its JPA member.
Yep.
So it's going to be Sandra and I representing us at that meeting. And they're bringing in basically the town town managers from each of the towns or the superintendents for each of the schools, as well as we just to have a conversation about the structure, big issues they're addressing, make sure everyone's on the same page. So that's happening this week, Friday. So wanted to be aware of that. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.
So you want to know about my name?